Hello everyone. Today we will discuss chapter 24, India's cultural contacts with the Asian countries. India's cultural contacts with the Asian countries. Medieval lawgivers and commentators ordained that a person should not cross the seas. This would imply that India shunned all relations with the outside world. But this is not so. For India, maintained contacts with its Asian neighbors since Harappan times. Indian traders went to the cities of Mesopotamia where their seals belonging to the period between 2400 BC and 1700 BC have been found. From the beginning of the Christian era, India maintained commercial contacts with China, Southeast Asia, West Asia, and Roman Empire. We have seen how the Indian land routes were connected with the Chinese Silk Road. We have also dealt on India's commercial intercourse with the eastern part of the Roman Empire. In addition to this, India sent its missionaries, conquerors, and traders to the neighboring countries where they founded settlements. The propagation of Buddhism promoted India's contacts with the Sri Lanka, Burma, China, and Central Asia. Most probably, the Buddhist missionaries were sent to Sri Lanka in the reign of Ashoka in the 3rd century BC. Short inscriptions in Brahmi script belonging to the 2nd and 1st centuries BC have been found in Sri Lanka. In course of time, Buddhism came to acquire a permanent stronghold in Sri Lanka. In the early centuries of the Christian era, Buddhism spread from India to Burma. The Burmese developed the Theravada form of Buddhism and erected many temples and statues in honor of the Buddha. What is more significant, the Burmese and Sri Lanka Buddhists produced a rich corpus of Buddhist literature not to be found in India. All the Pali texts were compiled and commented upon the Sri Lanka. Although the Buddhism disappeared from India, it continued to command a large following in Burma and Sri Lanka, which is the case even now. Beginning with the reign of Kanishka, a large number of Indian missionaries went to China, Central Asia, and Afghanistan for preaching their religion. From China, Buddhism spread to Korea and Japan, and it was in search of Buddhist texts and doctrines that several Chinese pilgrims such as Huayan and Huanshan came to India. Eventually, this contact proved fruitful to both countries. A Buddhist colony cropped up at Tunhuan, which was the starting point of the companies of merchants going across the desert. The Indians learned the art of growing silk from China, and the Chinese learned from India the art of Buddhist painting. The two other great centers of Buddhism in ancient times were Afghanistan and Central Asia. In Afghanistan, many statues of the Buddha and monasteries have been discovered. Begram and Bamiyan, situated in the north of this country, are famous of such relics. Begram is famous for ivory work, which is similar to Indian workmanship in the Kushan times. Figure 24.1 shows statue of Buddha at Bamiyan in Afghanistan. Okay, Bamiyan was the distinction of the possessing the tallest Buddha statue cut out of rock in the early centuries of the Christian era. It has thousands of natural and artificial caves in which the monks lived. Buddhism continued to hold ground in this country till the 7th century AD when it was supplanted by Islam. A similar process took place in the Central Asian republics of the USSR. Excavations have revealed Buddhist monasteries, stupas, and inscriptions and manuscripts written in Indian languages at several places in the Central Asian parts of USSR. As a result of the extension of the Kushan rule, Prakrut written in Kharoshthi script spread to Central Asia, where we find many Prakrit inscriptions and manuscripts belonging to the 4th century AD. Written language was used for official and day-to-day correspondence, as well as for the preservation and propagation of Buddhism. In Central Asia, Buddhism continued to be dominant religious force till it was replaced by Islam around the end of the 7th century AD. Indian culture also spread to Southeast Asia, but not through the medium of Buddhism, except in the case of Burma. It was mostly diffused through the Brahminical cults. The name Suvarna Bhumi was given to Pegu and Moulmein in Burma, and merchants from Roch, Banaras, and Bhagalpur traded with Burma. Considerable Buddhist remains of Gupta times have been found in Burma. From the 1st century AD, India established close relations with Java in Indonesia, which was called Suvarna Dvipa or the island of gold by the ancient Indians. The earliest Indian settlements in Java were established in AD 56. In the 2nd century of the Christian era, several small Indian principalities were set up. When the Chinese pilgrim Fahian visited Java in the 5th century AD, he founded he found the Brahmanical religion prevalent there. In the early centuries of the Christian era, the Pallavas founded their colonies in Sumatra. Eventually, these flowered into the kingdom of Srivijaya, which continued to be important power and center of Indian culture from the 5th to the 10th century AD. The Hindu settlements in Java and Sumatra became channels for the radiation of Indian culture. The process of founding settlements continued afterwards. In Indochina, which is at present divided into Vietnam, Cambodia, and Laos, the Indians set up two powerful kingdoms in Cambodia and Chamba. The powerful kingdom of Cambodia, identical with modern Cambodia, was founded in the 6th century AD. Its rulers were devotees of Shiva. They developed Cambodia as a center of Sanskrit learning, and numerous inscriptions were composed in this language. In the neighborhood of Cambodia at Champa, embracing southern Vietnam and the fringes of northern Vietnam, it seems that traders set up their colonies. The king of Chamba was also a Shaiva, and the official language of Chamba was Sanskrit. This country was considered to be a great center of education in the Vedas and Dharmashastras. Indian settlements in the Indian Ocean continued to flourish till the 13th century, and during this period intermingled with the local peoples. Continuous commingling gave rise to a new type of art, language, and literature. We find in these countries several art objects which show a happy blending of both Indian and indigenous elements. General view of temple at Borobudur. It is astonishing that the greatest Buddhist temple is found not in India but in Borobudur in Indonesia, considered to be the largest Buddhist temple in the whole world. It was constructed in the 8th century AD, and 436 images of Buddha were engraved on it. The temple of Angkor Wat in Cambodia is larger than the Borobudur. Although this temple belongs to the medieval times, it can be compared to the best artistic achievements of the Egyptians and Greeks. The stories of the Ramayana and Mahabharata are written in reliefs on the walls of the temple. The story of Ramayana is so popular in Indonesia that many folk plays are performed on its basis. The Indonesian language called Bahasa Indonesia contains numerous Sanskrit works in respect of sculptures from the head of the Buddha from Thailand, the head from Cambodia, and the magnificent bronze images from Java are regarded as the best examples of blending of Indian art with the local art traditions of Southeast Asia. Similarly, beautiful examples of painting comparable to those of Ajanta have been found not only in Sri Lanka but in Tune Huan caves on the Chinese border. It would be wrong to think that religion alone contributed to the spread of Indian culture. Missionaries were backed by traders and conquerors. Trade evidently played a vital part in establishing India's relations with Central Asia and Southeast Asia. The very name Suvarna Bhumi and Suvarna Deba given to territories in Southeast Asia suggest Indians search for gold. Trade led not only to exchange of goods but also of elements of culture. It would be inaccurate to hold that the Indians all alone contributed to this culture of their neighbors. It was a two-way traffic. The Indians acquired the craft of minting gold coins from the Greeks and Romans. They learned the art of growing silk from China, that of growing betel leaves from Indonesia. and several other products from the neighboring countries. Similarly, the method of growing cotton spread from India to China and Central Asia. However, Indian contribution seems to be more important in art, literature, religion, script, and language. But in no case the culture which developed in the neighboring countries was a replica of the Indian culture. Just as India retained and developed its its own personality in spite of foreign influences. Similarly, the countries in Southeast Asia evolved their own indigenous culture by assimilating the Indian elements. So we have completed chapter 24. In the next video, we will discuss chapter 25, transformation of the ancient phase. Thank you for listening me. We'll see you in next class. Thank you very much.